Hey everybody, how are you? Brian here with Airtable Ninja. Got another tutorial for you, and today we're going to be doing some record linking, and I'm going to show you how to get into that and some of the cool things we can do once we link some records together. What we're looking at right now is a sample database that I've put together. We have an accounts tab, which are different accounts, and I've pre-populated some of this field with some sample data. And we have contacts that work for those accounts. These are the people that are in charge that we're dealing with, our actual customers. And we have some sample invoices here that are owed by those accounts. So money that's owed to us by those accounts, and these are the people that we're going to use to get that money back. All right? So what we first have to do is link all of these together. So account is the highest level part of this database. So I'm going to actually start at the contacts, because what we have is all these people. We have first name, last name, who they are, some contact information, but we don't know where they work, right? We don't know what account they're associated with. So the easiest thing to do is to add that here. So I'm going to say add a new field. I'm going to call it account. And linking a record is very, very easy. We just double click on that drop down, link to another record, and you can see that all of your tables will be listed here. Right now this Airtable has 3, so there's 3. And what is that? We want to link it to the accounts. Now you have a couple of options here. One option is to link multiple records, and the next option is to limit the selection to a view. If you're using filters for different views, you may want to limit the record to a view so that only certain records show up, not all of them. For instance, if maybe on your accounts tab you have a status for active versus inactive accounts, you can limit that to only show the active accounts and not the inactive ones. Okay, and then allow linking multiple records. That's is, let's say for Betty Sue right here, the first row in this example. Does she work for multiple accounts, or is she only linked to one? Most of the time they're only going to be linked to one, so that's what I'm going to do, is just allow it to link to one record. And we're going to go ahead and click save. Now the first thing we're going to do after we do that, we're going to go over to the accounts tab, and I want to show you now there's a new field here, a new column called contacts. That wasn't there before, and that's because we just linked those two together. So this will automatically pop up. So what we can do is say sample account. We can go here and contacts, and we can grab everybody that we know works for sample account. So let's say we know Betty Sue works for sample account. Alternatively, from this table, from the contacts table, we can pick the individual contact and say, okay, well, we know he works for sample account. And we know that Marty Killian here, he works for another sample. Okay, now everybody's linked. So these are all linked together. Now the next thing we have are the invoices. Well, invoices are owed by accounts in this example. So what we can do is, same thing. We're going to say the account. We're going to link to the account. And do we want to link multiple records? No, usually an invoice is only owed by one person. You don't usually have it be payable by multiple parties, so we're only going to limit that to one. Okay, and we hit save. And now from the accounts tab, you can see, again, we have a new column here, invoices, and what this is going to do is list out and show you all of the invoices that is owed by that account, or all of the invoices that they've had, not just what's owed. Because even when an invoice becomes paid, it'll still show there. So for this example, we're only tracking some very basic information, an invoice number, who owes it, how much is owed, and when it's due. Typically, you're obviously going to track way more information than that, when the invoice was created, who created it, if it was paid, when it was paid, how much was paid, all that kind of stuff. But for this sample, this works pretty well. So let's just make believe that the first invoice belongs to sample account, the second invoice belongs to another, third invoice belongs to another, and the last invoice belongs to sample. Okay? Now when we go over to the accounts tab, we can see, using those link records, we can see everybody's invoices. And you notice how these are highlighted in blue? That gives us the opportunity to click on it and pull up that invoice in one click, just like that. You can see all that invoice information without ever having to leave the accounts tab. So that's in a nutshell how we link records. We just linked all of this together pretty quickly. And now I'm going to show you a couple more things we can do now that these records have been linked. One of the cool things we can do is look up information, or look up data. Okay, so if we go to the contacts tab, and we know that we have this link here to sample account, let's say that we want to look up the office number, because in our table here we have their mobile phone number because that's something that's tied directly to them, but the office number is something that could be tied to multiple people. So you wouldn't want to type that in since you've already got that information stored in the Accounts tab here. All we have to do is look it up. So we can go office number, and there's a field down here called a lookup field. So we click that, and what do we want to look up? Well, on the Accounts tab, or the Accounts table, we want to look up, and you just pick the field that you want to display, and that is the office phone. Hit save, and there it is. So now we can put that over here next to the extension, and if you need to make a phone call, you could try their mobile phone first. If not, try their office, and look at that, you got their extension handy right there. So that's one cool thing we can do, is a lookup. Another cool thing we can do is something called a rollup. And so an example of this is, let's say we have this account and we know that they have these two invoices, but we want to know how much does this account owe us total. So what we can do is create a new field, and I'm going to call this money owed. Okay, and I'm going to choose this roll-up tab here. And what this is going to do is it's going to roll up all of the values from one table for everything that is linked to that account. Okay, so we're going to say on the invoices table, we want to roll up the amount owed. And we have to put in a little tiny function. It's like doing a formula almost, and it's going to be, how do we want that information? Do we want an average of all of those values? Do we want to just count how many there are? Do we want to see what the lowest one is, what the highest one is? For this example, we want to do a sum, so we want to add all of them together. And formatting, we're going to change this to a currency so it looks like money. Hit save, and there we go. So just like that, we can see that sample account owes us a little under $2,000 and $820 for another sample. And if you go and you do the math on these, you'll see that these two add up to $820, and that ends up to an $1,800 figure. So that's a basic roll-up. I guess that's about it for this tutorial, and if you have any questions, please do reach out to me, Brian at airtable.ninja, or visit my website, airtable.ninja. Thanks.